What's up, Capoeira Nation? Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for coming back to the podcast, to your favorite Capoeira podcast. This is your host, Instructor Kashishi from Capoeira Brazil in Indianapolis. And right now on this episode, I had so much fun talking to Desconfiado from Mandinga, Grupo Mandinga from Santa Clara, California. Make sure you listen to this podcast. He drops really cool information right here, especially information about his podcast. The information is going to be the description down below. Make sure you follow him. Check the podcast if you want to learn about Capoeira history, and make sure you listen there and follow the podcast. Share with a friend and tag a friend that want to learn history. Also, just a heads up, my audio, for some reason, I don't know what happened to this microphone. It was disconnected. It didn't go through, but we got it done. That's the most important part, that we got it done, and the episode is up right now. All right, listen to it, have fun, and let's learn together. Okay, peace. Thank you so much. Enjoy. Okay, thank you so much. Peace. What's up, Capoeira Nation? Welcome back to the Capoeira Experience podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, for being part of the Capoeira community, being part of any community of Capoeira. Just keep rocking, keep training, and most important, keep supporting your Capoeira school. Without you, Capoeira wouldn't be possible. So today I have a pleasure to have another podcaster, a Capoeira podcaster, which is pretty cool. We can exchange some pretty cool information here. And let me introduce you to Instructor Desconfiado from Santa Clara, California. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Not instructor though, just Desconfiado.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, perfect. Okay, my bad.
No problem.
Perfect. And all right, cool. So what is your social media so people can find you there?
Sure. So you can find me on Instagram at desconfiado.capoeira. I have a YouTube channel that's called the same, and you can find my Capoeira history podcast, which is called Singing for Survival, on pretty much wherever you find your podcasts. Nice. In any platform of podcasts, right? Yep.
Yeah, nice. And go there, follow the podcast. It's really cool information there. If you want to find Capoeira history, there's really cool information. I really like the one of what is his name? I forgot the name. I forgot the name. But it's one of the last one that you have there.
Was it the most recent on Madame Sata?
Yes, that one. Yes, Madame Santa. For some reason, I was thinking on Bisoro. But yeah,
Bisoro's next. So.
Oh, nice. Cool. Nail it. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's really cool information. If you're listening, make sure you go find the podcast. I will put the link or any information on the description below, so you make sure you follow and get information there. As I always say, it's really, really important for us to learn Capoeira history. So this podcast, or his podcast, is actually very, very important for us to learn more of the Capoeira history. It doesn't matter what kind of lineup it is, but learn Capoeira history is really important. So talk to me a little bit about your podcast, like how. So to tell people about what is your podcast about and all that stuff.
Sure. So the whole focus of this podcast is on Capoeira history, but more than just being about Capoeira history, it's specifically for people in Capoeira who are not Brazilian or who live outside of Brazil. Nice. When I was first starting Capoeira, my instructor out on the East Coast, Mestre Chigri, he always really enforced to us that history was incredibly important.
100%, yeah.
And so that made me want to go out and learn more about it. But when you're not Brazilian, when you don't speak Portuguese, or your Portuguese isn't that good, when
Yeah.
you speak Capoeira class Portuguese, which is
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
Portuguese,
Yeah.
it's very, very difficult to find a lot of information and to really understand what's happening in the history.
Yeah. So some information can like not be 100% translated, and which is
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. And on top of that, there's a lot of information that's just not recorded or not written in the way that Western people are really accustomed to gaining their history at.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
it's one thing to not really be able to access the information, but then also it's hard to make those connections as to why things are happening
Yeah, 100%.
when you don't have like cultural context either.
Yeah, especially because capoeira is so huge and
Mm.
it's so many years, and then
Yep.
you're gonna be like, okay, where do I start?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's really daunting because there's like information scattered everywhere. It's hard to like connect the dots between everything.
Yeah, for sure.
So with my classes and my students, when I try to teach them history, I found that the most effective way to do it was through the music, because even if people don't speak that much Portuguese or don't really
Yeah.
understand Brazilian culture, they hear things in the songs that they sing.
Yeah.
And
Smart.
so
That's pretty good.
well, that way, if I can tell them why are we hearing these things in the songs,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
every time they hear the song, they remember, and they have a
Yeah.
much deeper connection to that music.
That's smart. Yeah, but through association, so they can kind of like remember
Exactly.
stuff. That's pretty cool. Yeah,
Well, and it makes the songs mean much more to people too, if you really
100%. Yeah,
understand what you're singing about.
yeah. Because it's a meaning, a deeper meaning behind the song or the music, whatever music it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I like it. I like that. And how many episodes do you have so far?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think there's
Nice.
I think there's 7,
Nice.
either 7 or 8 right now. What's been, I mean, I think what's been especially special about this for me is first that I've learned a ton just by having to do the research to look into this.
Nice.
A good example of that is Lampião. Lampião is someone that you hear his name in some capoeira songs, but not that much. And
Yeah,
people don't
yeah.
really
No
talk
anymore.
about him that much. Exactly. And people don't talk about him that much in the capoeira community.
Yeah.
But finding out that history was really incredible to me. And on top of that, almost every time I do an episode, people will email me with questions they still have, stories they've heard,
Cool.
or other things that I've never even heard about.
Yeah.
And it's totally opened me up to lots of new things in both history and Brazilian culture.
Nice.
And that's what I wanted, you know.
Yeah.
History is more fun when it's a community effort, and I want to learn more too. So
Yeah, because it's the same thing of like the history if about like it's about like the like you said, it's about the community, right? Is there is no history without community, and then there's no community without history. You know,
exactly.
is everything is connected. Capoeira that's why I love it so much. There's so much to learn, and there's so much to see, and I keep listening to mestres and where they say like, you know, I've been doing this for 30 plus years. I feel like I still got a bunch of stuff to learn. And
Absolutely.
things, I feel like a baby now. But
Yeah.
it's so much to learn. Well, what do you learn about Lampion?
So to be honest, when I went into that, the only thing that I really knew about Lampião was that he was basically a bandit. That's all I knew.
Okay.
So what I didn't know was why he was a bandit and the conditions in the sertão that really made him the folkloric hero that he is. My brother, my brother's girlfriend grew up in João Pessoa in Brazil.
Cool.
And when she was in like grade school, they would have, you know, like a costume party or something like that once a year. And all the boys would come in dressed like Lampião and all the girls would come in dressed like Maria Bonita. So
that's funny.
It's a really huge cultural thing that still continues today. And it's because of the oppression that was felt in the sertão at that time.
Yeah.
And I think what's most interesting is how that relates to conditions that were happening in the United States about the same time. Since we had the Great Depression, we had alcohol prohibitions, stuff like that. And so we had our own bandits
Oh yeah.
that showed up: John Dillinger, Bonnie and Clyde, those types of people, Al Capone. And people see them in similar ways. People that were criminals, but that the general people maybe have a positive opinion of because, they're fighting against something they see as unjust.
Yeah, yeah, like Pablo Escobar, right? So
Yeah.
I heard many stuff. I know he's probably not the perfect example, but on the sense of like for a bunch of poor people in Colombia, he was a hero because he helped so much in the community. Of course, he was a drug cartel, like the biggest guys in the entire history of, but he helped so many people in the community.
Well, and like Pancho Villa in Mexico too.
Yeah. He's just crazy how like some stuff. I mean, positive, negative, of course.
Well, absolutely, and that's the really important thing that I want to look at with capoeira history, and when this comes to American history too, and even the current civil rights movements that are happening today in the States. That history is complicated. People in history are complicated. There's not, I mean, a lot of times we want really simple answers as to this was a good person, this was a bad person. And it's never, we never really get anything that's clear like that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I'm going to put you in touch. Do you see how is your Portuguese?
It's getting better.
Nice. I'm going to put you in contact with Mr. Francesinha.
Okay.
She's super knowledgeable on capoeira history. I always go to her whenever I have a question about like different like topics and something specific like Ahmadas, like names, like the history of Palma de Tejero, why those kind of stuff, and she can go on and explain your like stuff.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, and I think she does studies about like the capoeira history, like specific capoeira history, and of course she does other stuff, but she has really good knowledge about like capoeira history.
Yeah, if you could put me in touch, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'll send you her contact information.
Perfect.
So learning history is what inspired you to create the podcast.
That and so I've wanted to do something like this for a long time. Because I've always read about, I've consumed capoeira literature, everything I could find.
Nice.
But it took me a while to figure out exactly how I wanted to do it. But to be honest, what really gave me the extra push to do that was a lot of the Black Lives Matters protests this summer.
Okay.
In the aftermath of some of the initial protests, I held a few classes with my students, and basically said, look, there's a lot of things going on right now. I feel like many of these things happen because we don't remember or don't understand our history.
For sure, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I want to sit down with everyone. We're going to talk about capoeira history for couple hours.
Yeah.
Just and a couple hours just briefly skims along the surface of that history.
Oh yeah.
But as I was talking, it made me think that that was the format that I wanted to get at when I wanted to share and kind of collect these historical stories. Yeah. And this was the easiest way for me to transmit that to my students, and to help more people in the community like them and like me, who have difficulty accessing this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And also the like to find like a good source too. Because sometimes some information are like somebody tells you something different than the other person. And then it's really nice to have pretty much a free access to specific history, like Subidos Palmares. Like I also saw that you have Subidos Palmares there, which is pretty cool.
Yep. Yeah, that was the first one that I started with. But what you said there too is really important. That there's in capoeira history, because I mean most of this is oral tradition. There's a lot of contradictory stories. Lots.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, everybody. Yeah. And I always want to make the point when I do these episodes that I I am not the arbiter of truth when it comes to capoeira history. I'm presenting stories. If there are contradicting stories, I try to present the contradicting stories that I can find, because there's no use in saying this is a true story, this is a false story. It's all part of the overall picture of what we're looking at.
Because I heard, I think I went to a Bachipapo with Mr. Joao Grande, and he was mentioning he was like, nobody holds the truth in capoeira, which is today's days with so much information on the internet is so hard to find like somebody specific. Okay, like something, it's just like very, like you mentioned, very contradictory of like somebody tells you something, somebody tells you something different, like just with a simple point of like, okay, where did capoeira started? Was it Bahia, or was it Rio de Janeiro, or was which coast, or it's like so many people tell you, well, no, it started here. Oh, well, no, Bahia was first, or no, Rio de Janeiro was first. Okay, well,
and that's a seemingly simple question.
Something so simple. And it also is because I teach that to my students too, right? Is like, okay, how would you translate some words, like specific Brazilian words, to the English? Because in English, or at least here in the US, everything have to have a Y, like for example, like when you explain Mandinga, okay, well, where did I start? Mandinga or malandro. How do you explain the malandro word? And it's really cool to find a source where somebody can explain those kind of stuff. I think it's really cool. Which amazing job doing that, by the way.
Well, I appreciate that. And when I try to explain these things, I'm only trying to explain them in the way that I understand them.
For sure.
And it's I think the way that's been the most useful, especially when I try to have conversations with my students about these, is to just relate it to something they already know. So
for sure.
A lot of my students are, either American or Canadian, so they've gone through that education system. So I know, okay, they know these historical events that happen in U.S. history, whatever. Okay, how can we draw parallels between these to make them understand things that happened in a different culture?
Yeah, for sure. Which is awesome. It's not easy to find the translation.
Nah, for sure not. That's kind of the big struggle, but I learned so much by doing that.
I bet,
so much.
Oh yeah.
But something you said before, I think is a really key part, is that a lot of what we find in history when we're looking it up is contradictory. But I think that's the most capoeira thing about the history, because capoeira is all full of contradictions.
Yeah, for sure.
You have to be so comfortable with not having that black or white answer, or else you're going to get frustrated with capoeira real fast.
And that's why when I also try to explain my students something as simple as one moment, right? Paso por las costas. Okay, so how do you use paso por las costas for this or for this? It's like, well, like in capoeira, it's not like a specific rule for you to use in this moment. You can use this moment just to move around, or just this moment. It's just like again, it's contradictory. But I always tell my students, that's the beautiful part of capoeira, because everything doesn't have to be perfect. And we always looking for perfection. Okay, this have to be perfect. This have to be straight. It has to be like this. Like, no, that's not capoeira. At least how I see it.
And there's a talk that Mestre Cueca gives that his answer to almost every question that a student asks him is, it depends. Because everything is situational. You'll never 100%. Have a straight answer. And 100%. I think the American culture, that's one of the hardest things to learn. I've had so many students get so frustrated because of things like that. But learning to accept that, I think, is a huge part of your growth.
100%. To accept the imperfection of everything, and I told all my students, it's like the hot. You never know what is going to happen. I can give you a situation, but you never know what is happening in the other person's head.
Yep.
Okay, I can tell you, okay, if somebody kicks me out of your friendship, but what if that person kicks Quechada the other way? You never know. Again, it depends, which is really cool. I love capoeira because all those contradictions and like, okay, maybe this way, okay, maybe this way. That's awesome.
You never stop learning that way.
No, and I love everything about capoeira, and even the music. The music sometimes is contradictory too, and
yep,
yeah, and I also see another subject of now to training. I see that you have really cool conditioning, body conditioning, and your capoeira movements are really cool. And do you do any training for like specific like conditioning?
So I do, and I've explored so many different ways of getting at conditioning for capoeira. Nice. Since I've been a part of it, and I think, there's something about the specific application of capoeira movements that makes very general conditioning not really work.
Okay.
It helps, I think. Of course it helps.
Yeah.
General conditioning helps. But I think that what has been the most successful to me is to look at movements I'm struggling with. Okay, how do I break down these into what are the requirements to make this movement happen? And now how do I adapt that into something that's more like traditional strength training type things?
Yeah.
And a lot of that comes back to like gymnastic style body weight strength training, but just more applied.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's me personally, because I mean I've been doing capoeira for 11 years, so I have a lot of physical experience. Nice. So that's the point that I'm at now. But for my students, I always fall back to a lot of either specific gymnastic style strength training to address whatever shortcomings they have, or some more particular. I think strength is easy to get at. Strength, there's a million ways you can get at strength. You're going to get stronger. I think for a lot of the students I have, mobility is a lot harder to address. So for that, there's a lot of people talk about like loaded mobility things now. And I know you had Sempara on here. And her material is great. It's fantastic.
Yeah, amazing. So I do one of her first courses. Dude, he helped so much. Yeah,
that's really good.
Yeah, super amazing information there.
Yeah, and that information, I think I see that type of information slowly creeping its way into the capoeira community, and I think it's a really, really positive thing.
Oh yeah.
But that kind of work is what I've been doing for a while in order to keep myself mobile and strong in the type of capoeira movements. And I do a lot of like acrobatic stuff too that, nice. I mean, I'm 30 now, so I can't just chuck my body through things anymore.
Yeah, we're not teenagers anymore. And
No.
no, man.
It hurts when I fall now.
Yeah. And before we didn't care. It's like, it hurts, so I'm gonna do it again.
Yeah. So that's basically it. I pull from a lot of different places. I pull from kettlebell training. I pull from traditional like barbell training for sports athletes. I pull from gymnastic strength training. It's similar to capoeira, and every place has like a little piece of the truth. So I try to find the best parts of all of them that benefit me the most and combine them together.
That's awesome. It reminds me a lot to, I'm pretty sure you heard about him, Ito Portal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I heard about him few months back. Mm-hmm. And more I look into his work and what he does, he's like, man, it makes so much sense of like just moving, just the concept of moving and getting back that moment that we used to do when we were kids, as we grew up and we are like conditioning to not do it anymore. And it's
absolutely.
It's crazy how like again, more I watch his stuff, more I watch what he mean, his philosophy of movement is like, what have you been doing this whole time? Yeah, because I got into movement not too long ago because I don't have any like previous sports or any practice before capoeira.
Wow.
Yeah, yes.
And I
And
think
now I just when I understand I gotta move.
for sure. And that,
Yeah.
I mean, that's true for a lot of people in capoeira. A lot of
Yeah.
people in capoeira, like that was what got them into fitness and into movement. But it's great that you bring up Ido Portal. I've trained with some of his students and his coaches before, so
Oh, cool.
I've learned from them too. I incorporate the things that they do as well, and I'll say that I was very very fortunate that I stumbled on his material back in 2011, I think. So way back then, he had the only thing he had was this like blogspot page
Okay.
where he would post some of that material and some of like the workouts that his students would do and things like that.
Yeah.
And that was really first. That's what helped me build up my movement foundation
That's awesome. Man.
and
That's so
fix.
cool.
But more important than that, I had knee surgery about a year and a half after I started capoeira.
Okay.
And I didn't walk for 6 months.
Wow.
So that kind of stuff really helped me rehab.
Yeah.
Without that, I mean, when I got out of the physical therapy,
Yeah.
I could bend my knee, 90 degrees, no
Yeah.
farther than that. And they said, "Oh, you're good, you're fine, no problem."
What? Really?
And so, yep.
Wow.
So it took a long time, and that material really helped me rehab my hips and my knees back to where they are now.
Wow, that's so crazy. You mean like, well, yeah, just you moving your knee, but again, just go back home.
Exactly. They said, "Well, you can walk. What more do you want?"
Wow, man. Wow, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
Hey, well, it's kind of funny. Like when I started watching his, because I stumbled on his somebody's podcast. I don't remember who, the first one. And then he said, like, yeah, I started with capoeira. And I was like, oh,
Yep.
wait. And then I went back
Yep.
and then I started looking more into his stuff. It was like, that makes so much sense. Like, it's
Yeah.
just the fact of like, we all started at the same spot. We started with capoeira, which is really cool. Like, brings back everything back to capoeira, which is awesome. I love this.
And kind of like a fun fact on that, because he was originally from CDO Israel.
Okay, yeah.
And he's partially responsible for the huge wave of students they had down there,
So cool.
because there was a water commercial that him and one of the other instructors did down there. You can look it up. It's like a 15-20 second commercial about water bottles, and it was on every TV for like weeks, and they said their schools were flooded after that.
Wow.
Yeah.
He I know that he mentioned that. I forgot what was his nickname in capoeira. I forgot. You remember his nickname?
I don't remember.
Something like Profeta or something like that. I don't remember. But he mentioned many times, like, yeah, I'm pretty much the one that made capoeira here in Israel popular. He's one of them. He's not the only one, but he's one of them.
Yeah, he's definitely part of it. I think I would give a lot more credit to Mesri Idan. Because and if you have a chance to look into Mesri Idan's his teaching style, and I know that so they're starting to bring some of their instructor courses online now.
Yeah.
Highly recommend doing that. It's fantastic. Okay. But they have a very unique style of teaching, because when they brought capoeira to be approved by the state so they could teach it and get funding for it, they had to have a very rigorously approved curriculum. They got involved with like Krav Maga teachers, and so they do a really really good work there.
That's really really cool. I think I wish we have something like that here in the US, so we can have like a, well, I guess they're probably, because are they the biggest group there, CDO?
Yeah.
Okay, so
by far.
Israel is a small country compared to the US. Sure. I don't know the size of the country. I know it's for a fact it's smaller. I don't know the population, but I wish we have some sort of like structure here where we can be like, this is capoeira, and it will help so much the capoeira community in many aspects.
For sure. And I mean, I think, diversity in the capoeira community is important. Diversity of
100%.
styles, diversity of teaching, but I think there's definitely, fundamental things about how to teach and how to, especially for, I was just having a conversation about this last weekend, how to teach, not just teach in general, but how to teach, Western and American populations, especially for Brazilian instructors, because I think the physical issues that people in the United States have are very different than in Brazil. So there's a lot of extra things that we have to address that, I mean, if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I always tell like people, like ignorance is always expensive, because if you don't do your research how to teach, and again, stepping on the instructor side, no everybody's gonna learn the same. No everybody's going to catch the information the same way you learn it. So you have to learn how to translate that information to deliver that to students, and teaching is not easy.
No, it's not easy at all.
No, especially when you have students that they get stuck, or even yourself, right? When you get stuck, it's like, man, okay, now how do they get out of this specific movement? How do they translate that for me to understand it? And now you got the exact same situation with 10 people where there is like, oh man, 10 different ways to think, 10 different ways to see stuff. It's like, well, and then that's where the creativity comes.
Absolutely. And in the end, you end up having like a Swiss Army knife for each movement. You try this one. Oh, that didn't work. Maybe this one. Maybe this one.
Yeah. No, it's pretty cool, and that's why I also love teaching, because it helps me to understand the movement from different perspectives. It's like, okay, well, handstands, and then okay, just with a simple handstands, how can I break it down, like you mentioned before? How can I break it down for me to understand, so I can get there? He's really cool.
Yeah, and I mean, you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, teaching something is the only real way to truly understand what you're doing.
Oh yeah. I always tell my wife, he's like, you have no idea how much I learn by teaching.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I always tell her too, like, since I moved to the US, because I started teaching here in the US. I used to sub classes back in Venezuela, but when I moved to the US is when I actually started learning more with more details what I do, what I actually do. Yeah, which is really cool. I love this.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's why, sometimes the best physical performers aren't always the best teachers. Yeah, there's like a little disconnect. Because a lot of times you can do a move without really understanding how you're doing it. You just do it.
100%. Yeah.
So
and translating that to teaching is completely different.
Yes.
Okay, now
for sure.
Translate, I don't know, how you French, just for example, it's like, okay, how do I teach somebody? if I just saw on TV or on YouTube, when I started, it was like, well, 11 years ago YouTube wasn't big. So it was like, okay, you search on YouTube and you're like, oh, and you repeat it until
again,
you kind of like see it. Yeah.
I remember that.
Like, He's like, okay, well, let me try. Okay, did it work? Okay, I'm gonna watch a video.
Yep.
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
It's cool seeing it evolve now too, because I mean, yeah, I was right there in the first couple of years of Capoeira. I was always like, oh, I want to learn this. So I spend days looking at the same thing. It would take me months and years to learn something. And it's funny to now, once you really understand what's happening, with a student that's like physically capable, 2-3 classes, they're going to have it, because I now understand it. And if I understand it, then I can make you understand it.
Yeah.
So you don't have to just bash your head against the wall for
months trying to figure it out. to understand Carwell.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you preach. Yeah, it's funny. It's just pretty cool. And again, I love teaching and I love passing this information. And also that's a reason why I created a podcast, is I wanted to learn. So and because I have all those questions, somebody's gonna have the same question out there.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's why I like listening to the work you do. And I really appreciate
Thank you so much.
the podcast you've been doing.
Thank you.
First, because in your conversations with people, sometimes you'll ask a question that's like, oh, that's a question I had,
Oh,
and
cool.
then I'll hear an answer. But what I think is even better is when you ask a question that I didn't even think of that question.
Okay.
And now
okay.
I want to know what the answer to that question is.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. I appreciate you listening to a podcast, and it's very cool that again is because I have the question in my mind. Somebody probably have this accent.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And again, the imperfection of capoeira is like, well, one person might have different answers.
Mm-hmm.
And we learn from everybody.
For sure.
Yeah, you were about to say something. Sorry.
No, you beat me to it.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, we learn from everybody, man. And I've learned from my students. I learn from myself. I learn from people. I learn from you. I learn from everybody.
Yeah, and a lot of times I learn more from my students than anyone else, because the questions they ask, it's it's like, so to draw an analogy, I was talking to one of my other instructors last night, and he has a 3-year-old daughter. I think she's 3 now.
Nice.
And so she's at the age where she's starting to ask questions about like the world around her and stuff like that.
Nice.
And so he said, "Oh yeah, she asked me this morning, how come why when I put ice in my glass, why does the ice crack?" And he looked at her. He's like, I have no idea why that happens. And it's questions like that, because there's things that we do in our practice when we've been in for so long that we just take for granted. And we don't necessarily know why they happen. We just know that they do happen, or that they are there.
Yeah.
So getting these, I'm sure you've had the same experience. You get a question and be like, well, I never really thought about that. I'll come back in a week. Give me a week and I'll have an answer for you.
Yeah. Same. Yeah, exactly. You nail it, because he's like, well, did I say something that I just come first to my head, or did I figure it out? And then he's like, let me ask my master and see what he's gonna say.
Yeah.
And I'll get back to you. Yeah. No, it's cool. And I was listening. I like audiobooks, because I don't have time to like sit down for an hour and read. But I'm listening to Kinetics, I think it's called the book. I have it here, and it's a part of the book where he says the human eye sees completely different stuff, and that's a pretty cool thing about the, let me see how Dianetics. Because blind color is how you call it, right? Blind color.
Colorblind.
Colorblind, yes.
Yeah.
Colorblind person can see completely different perspective of what you see. It's like, that makes so much sense. It's like you just like different perspective, right? It's just, and again, comes back to capoeira.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I also see that you have a lot of besides capoeira, you teach acrobatics stuff.
Yeah, I teach that a little less, but I incorporate that to my classes, and I teach basically the intersection. So have you heard of martial arts tricking before?
Is kind of, when you explain and see.
So martial arts tricking it's a pretty new sport. It developed in the late 1990s, very early 2000s, and it's essentially taking all of the different acrobatic elements from different martial arts, from breakdancing, from gymnastics, and meshing them together into like a performance art, pretty much.
Oh, cool. And okay.
It's very, very high level acrobatics, lots of spinning, lots of kicking, that kind of thing. Okay. And starting to gain a little more traction now. So here in Santa Clara, we have one of the first actual tricking gyms in
Nice.
the area. It's called Loop Kicks,
Okay.
and so we have a lot of instructors that are excellent at teaching people how to flip, how to do lots of really
Nice.
cool, fun acrobatics and things like that. So what I like to focus on is the intersection between martial arts tricking and capoeira,
Nice.
because martial arts tricking takes a lot of movements from capoeira, but they miss out on a lot of other movements, and they don't really understand how to do a lot of the more intricate ones. So
Okay.
I spend a lot of time teaching trickers how to do capoeira movements and capoeira people how to do tricking movements, and it's
That's so cool.
it's a fun place to be in.
Yeah. You pretty much they meet a person in between.
Exactly.
That's so cool, man.
Exactly.
That's so cool.
Exactly.
How long have you been doing it?
Not terribly. I always was terrified of flipping.
Wow. And now
I
you're
didn't.
flipping. That's so
Yeah, I think I did my first backflip when I was like 24 or something like that.
Okay.
So it's been, but since I moved to the Bay Area 4 years ago now. So once I did that, I really engrossed myself into the world of the martial arts trickers, because there's a lot of them around here. And I came from Rhode Island on the other side of the country before that, and there's not much there. So I've really learned a lot since I've been here, and I've been doing workshops in the area, other places on that to try to bridge that gap.
Nice. That's awesome. And the what I really like is that you always come back to capoeira, and it's like everything's connected to capoeira, and I think that's really cool, because it's not easy either, like combine different stuff in different perspective to capoeira, or back to capoeira, or take from capoeira and adapt it to something else. Is pretty cool.
For sure. But I mean, capoeira is such a foundation for me that it's unavoidable at this point. I have to always go back to it.
Everything's capoeira, like you. Yeah, man. That's how I am.
Absolutely. And I feel like when you're in capoeira for a while, you see everything through that capoeira lens.
Oh yeah. It's I don't know. I mean, it's hard to disconnect everything from capoeira, because you just see capoeira everything everywhere.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. And before we wrap it up, a few more questions.
Sure.
Favorite song? You have a favorite capoeira song? Or capoeira music?
That is a really hard question.
There's a lot of capoeira music out there.
You know, it's a hard question, because as I've gone through the different subjects in this history series, I feel like every time I do an episode, I find a new favorite song, because I have to learn so much about it. But there's a song by Contra Messi Rafael that so just take a step back. I learned capoeira on the East Coast. I started with a relatively small group there called Grupo Ondas, started by Mestre Chigri, and he was my first mestre. I was in that school for I don't know, 6 years, 8 years. I don't know. I can't remember these numbers anymore. But when I moved over to the West Coast, he basically taught me this song. That's basically about leaving your home to find a new place, and it was very, very impactful to me. It goes, adeus, camarada, adeus, adeus, que eu já vou embora.
Oh yeah. I love that song. Give me goosebumps. Yeah, I know.
It's a beautiful song, and for anyone listening who doesn't know the song, it's saying, goodbye, my friend, goodbye, because I have to go.
Yeah.
And the people who leave bring with them the saudade, or like the longing, the homesickness, or roughly. And those who stay can just basically sit and cry.
Yeah, yeah,
Beautiful, beautiful song.
oh yeah,
Beautiful
oh
song.
yeah. And the way he and the energy he puts into the song is just like you just
Contra,
want to cry. Yeah,
Contra
he's
Mestre
really,
Rafael is one of the best capoeira singers in the world.
oh yeah, oh yeah,
Absolutely.
oh yeah, 100%, 100%. And I know which you're talking about. You remember the title of the song, so people can find it.
I don't. Is it just called Adeus Camarada Adeus?
It's very possible. Let's look it up really quick. Yeah, it's very possible. It's very possible that I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. Um, oh, there's too many music here. I'll find it. I'll find it. I'll find it.
That's
But
that. That's. I feel like that's one of those songs that everybody knows, but nobody knows what it's called.
yeah, yeah, it's funny. Yeah, and what about a favorite capoeira movement?
Favorite capoeira movement. I think that would have to be, and I'm not sure what everyone else calls it, but Auji Kaluna or
Okay, yeah,
Au Esquisito, some people call it.
okay,
I think it's a very like quintessential capoeira movement that
yeah, yeah.
has so many variations to it. People use
Oh
it in
yeah,
so many different ways.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
And even the tricking community has really, I'd say in the past like 5 years, the tricking community has also picked up on it, and they're doing really cool stuff with it. So
Nice.
it's something that you can change a lot and really broadly apply.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, definitely. I've seen it in more flexible you get, more cool it looks like.
Yeah,
Oh
absolutely.
yeah.
Oh yeah, there's videos of those kids doing it with their feet are like this far off
Oh
the
my
ground.
god, yeah. Just to see it, just like my back hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's those kids, man. Kids is just like it's like rubber bands.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Got to get them
Yeah.
started early.
Oh yeah. I wish capoeira was in Venezuela when I was like 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Same.
To wrap it up, what would be a single advice for the capoeira community?
Whew. So I think very broadly, I think we as a capoeira community, we need to get better at utilizing the internet to help capoeira.
100%.
I think what you are doing is fantastic, and I think what a lot of some groups are doing with their hosting, free events that are talks with different messages, that are doing music seminars, are wonderful. I think that for a very long time, capoeira has neglected using the internet to help spread capoeira and help the community at large.
For sure.
And I think there's lots of reasons for that.
Yeah,
I think,
yeah.
Group dynamics are part of that. I think having the people and time to do that is part of that. But I think other arts and other sports are much better, or doing a much better job of utilizing the internet.
Yeah.
And we have, there's so much opportunity for us to do good things with that.
Yeah. 100%. I agree. So you think as a capoeira community we should use more the like internet and like by using the internet? What do you mean, like Zoom classes and all that?
So that's part of it, I think. And when I say that, I don't necessarily have a very specific thing in mind.
Okay.
But doing things like what you're doing to help educate people.
Yeah.
Zoom classes are definitely a part of it, and I think the community at large picked up on that pretty fast once shutdown happened. I was really happy to see that.
Same.
But if we look back before the pandemic, if you were to look for capoeira resources online, there's very little things that you would find that were all that useful.
Yeah.
So, and if you look at other sports, if you look them up online, you'd be able to find resources. You'd be able to find, lessons on things you could learn. There might be online communities and things like that.
Yeah.
I think developing something like that to either educate the general population about capoeira, or to help the people in capoeira learn more capoeira. I think that's a very valuable thing to do.
100%. 100%. Yeah, because through internet, I mean, everything is internet right now.
Yep.
And everybody has access to internet very, very easy. Just with tapping, just with one single tap, and you're already connected you can be connected to everybody and to many people in different places at the same time. And it's something that we can, like you said, utilize much, much better. And
absolutely.
Even if those doesn't have to be like bachisados or anything like that, it's more like spread a capoeira and all that.
Yeah, and there's things that, for sure, there's things that don't translate well to the internet. Absolutely.
For sure.
But there's a lot of things that do. So just a quick other story, because this is something that I've thought about for a long, long time. I think back in 2014, either 2013 or 2014.
Okay.
There was this kind of fad going on where yoga people and gymnastics people were doing like challenges online, where they'd have like handstand challenges or like yoga balance challenges. They do it like once a week, couple times a week for a month. Get huge people involved, educate lots of people about it. So I did the same thing with capoeira in that time. So I did like a capoeira challenge type thing to try to get other people involved, like to access movements and learn things. And I was amazed at how many people outside of capoeira responded to that and wanted to do things and got involved. And so it kind of made it clear that if we do things, people will see it. People will engage with it, because what we do is amazing. Capoeira is amazing.
100%.
But we need to figure out how to make use of these resources to reach more general people. And and I don't know the answer to that, but I think that there's a lot of potential.
Yeah, for sure. And like it's just crazy how much technology is out there. That I would say probably the last 5 years is when capoeira start getting like a little more popular, where you start seeing like more people on movies doing. Is so many people that I think it was at the beginning of the year where I saw so many actors do capoeira. So many people in the movie industry where they do capoeira to keep the condition of their bodies. Like, what? I didn't know that. And capoeira today's day is getting more popular because of technology. And I'm pretty sure we can step a little bit more up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just got to figure out how.
Oh yeah, for sure. And what will be your social media so people can find you, and website and everything?
Sure. So you can find me on Instagram at desconfiado.capoeira. My website is Descapoeira.
Nice.
And you can find me on YouTube somewhere at the same name.
Nice. Awesome. And what would be the best way for people to find the podcast?
So you can find the podcast it's on Spotify. It's basically on any platform that you normally get your podcast. You can find it under Singing for Survival. So if you search that plus like, Zumbi or Lampião or Dandara, something like that, you'll find it.
Yeah. Nice. Make sure you go there, find the information, listen to that capoeira history. This is really, really cool information right there. I don't think there's any, if there's some capoeira history in English, there must be just a little. So right now you have the podcast where you can find this capoeira history and can miss opportunities since you have it right on your hands. And you can listen to any podcast right now and you be like, hey Google, play podcast, blah blah blah, whatever podcast, and or YouTube or the music in your car, cooking, taking a shower, whatever, is you can learn anywhere. So there's no excuse for you to find that podcast, which is really, really cool.
Absolutely.
And keep it up. Is awesome, man. That's awesome, man. And there's so much wide ocean of capoeira history that you can put in there.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Oh man, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being part of the podcast. Thank you so much for keep sharing your knowledge and doing the research and taking your time, because it takes time to build some content for podcasts, and also to find the research.
For sure. And thank you for having me on. And I really appreciate the work that you do.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
It's great to hear all these conversations with different people in the capoeira world.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And again, thank you for coming back coming to the podcast.
No problem.
All right. Talk to you later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for getting this far. Remember, please subscribe. Give us a thumbs up on Facebook or YouTube. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. This is going to help us and help me to get bigger numbers and bigger subscribers, so we can give more information. Okay, please, if you're listening, I know you're listening, I know you're watching, please give me a subscribe, give me a like. Okay, I know you're watching right here or listening. All right, have an amazing day. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening every single episode, especially the episode we just did. All right, thank you so much. Peace.